Did they lie?
Focus on America today.
I'm okay with the revisions. These were made up lies to the American people for an election day.
I'm sorry.
It was for an election day.
My friend, you are lying.
I'm not lying.
Because these
when Joe Biden came out and said these jobs are created.
Stop. This is exhausting.
It is exhausting.
From the very first moments of this segment, you could feel the tension building. Abby Phillip was sitting across from a guest who has become known for interrupting, redirecting, and repeating claims even after they've been fact-checked on air. And while the panel tried to discuss the latest jobs report, the good, the bad, and the complicated, the conversation kept slipping away from the data and drifting toward emotional political talking points. But then something different happened. Abby Phillip stopped the spiral, leaned in, and said something most hosts rarely say directly. You are lying. Not whispered. Not hinted, not softened, clear and unmistakable. It was the moment when the discussion turned from noise into accountability. And what triggered that? Not a disagreement about opinions, but a refusal to accept basic economic facts. Month-to-month revisions, yearly recalculations, adjustments that happen under every administration. All of it was being reframed as intentional deception. And Abby Phillip refused to pretend that was normal political spin. Instead, she corrected the numbers, clarified the process, and explained calmly that job revisions are standard economics, not evidence of wrongdoing. And she held that line even as her guest tried to push the conversation back into outrage. This was one of those rare TV moments where a host reminds everyone that facts still matter, even in heated political environments. And it set the tone for the rest of the panel, a tone of clarity instead of confusion, grounding instead of chaos, and accountability instead of deflection. Before we dive into the full story, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now, all that in mind, let's walk through the clips to the show, and along the way I will break down not just what was said, but what was really going on in the next studio. Now let's get into it.
Did they lie?
Focus on America today.
I'm okay with the revisions. These were made up lies to the American people for an election day.
I'm sorry.
It was for an election day.
My friend, you are lying.
I'm not lying.
Because these
when Joe Biden came out and said these jobs are created.
Stop. This is exhausting.
The long-awaited September jobs report is now out, and it is as messy as it gets. The good news is that the labor market added 119,000 jobs in September. That is more than double what economists expected. Here's the bad news. Unemployment rose 4.4%, and it is the highest level in nearly 4 years. And then there are the revisions, which paint an even darker picture. The data shows the U.S. economy actually shed jobs in August. On the heels of today's report, J.D. Vance, the vice president, seemed to acknowledge the pain that Americans are feeling, and he issued this plea.
My message to the American people who are still feeling like things are unaffordable, who are still feeling like things are rough out there is look, we get it and we hear you. Even though we've made incredible progress, we understand that there's a lot more work to do. And the thing that I'd ask for the American people is a little bit of patience. This economy was not harmed in 10 months.
Richard Quest is in our fifth seat. He's probably correct that not everything that we're seeing here is just the last 4 months in the making. However, I will say that Americans, when you look at the polling and they are asked, whether Trump's policies are helping them, most of them say that it has hurt them.
Let's separate the politics from the economics, if that's possible at this table, but we'll have a good try at it. The economics are that the economy is actually not doing that badly at the moment. It could be doing better, and there could be greater strength, but some of the damage is as a result of tariffs, indecision, uncertainty, and all these various other policies. It's AI that's basically driven the market and is driving the economy, at least for the moment. The politics is much, but the economics are also complicated, because as you say with this jobs report, there's a good bit and a bad bit, but the trend is not good. Whichever way you look at it, the trend is not good on the jobs numbers. Now, the politics is really dangerous for the president, because time and again, when you try and tell electorates that things aren't as bad as they think they are,
or just you wait,
it always goes wrong. Because the electorate knows what's happening in their pocket when they go to the supermarket. And that's, I think, what J.D. Vance is trying to negotiate. But when you have the president at McDonald's saying, everything's fine, there's no inflation. Do you know the other day I heard him say, and I mean, with all due respect, I heard him say, Under Biden, we had the worst inflation ever. I don't care what definition you have. That was never the worst inflation under the last administration, period. It's a lie. It's not true. So when you get this dichotomy...
When was it?
Sorry?
When was the worst then? Oh, because in my lifetime it was Biden, by the numbers.
No, 1920s.
I wasn't alive in 1920s.
No, neither was I, but 1920s.
Okay, but so when the president said it, he's saying...
Were you alive? No, sir. Sir, he said the worst. He said...
Listening comprehension, people. The worst ever is not the worst in my lifetime. Okay, those are not the same thing. Let's not be silly.
Right. And on that point, sir, on that point,
I think when the president was talking, he's talking about people that are watching him in the moment. He's saying it's never been worse than it was when Joe Biden was president.
With respect, sir, he's not. He's saying
talking about your dead people.
He's saying the worst ever. By the way, in the country's history, I think it's
a stretch.
Let me ask you then: were you alive in the 1970s?
I was not.
1980s?
1981.
A lot of people
right when Jimmy Carter screwed everything up and Ronald Reagan helped us out.
And we had higher inflation then than we had now. So the point I'm saying is, you can't play fast and loose with certain facts and expect the electorate to go along with you when they know it's not true.
I agree. That's why they elected him, because the American people realized how bad it was when Joe Biden was president, and they realized that they were being lied to, for example, about the job numbers. I'm old enough to remember when they lied about 818,000 jobs in the jobs report. The job report number of the last quarter.
The next moment in the discussion revealed something even deeper about the political divide today. As the panel worked through decades of inflation history, from the 1920s to the 1970s to the modern economy, it became clear that many of these disagreements weren't actually about numbers. They were about narratives. One guest insisted that inflation under one administration was the worst ever, even though historical data didn't support that claim. Another pointed out that the term worst ever is a factual measurement, not a personal feeling. When Abby Phillip asked for clarity, the answer swerved again into emotional territory instead of evidence. And that's where the conversation took a more revealing turn. Instead of acknowledging the correction, the debate shifted into comparisons, exceptions, and attempts to reshape the definition mid-discussion. It wasn't that the numbers were unclear, it was that the facts didn't support the narrative being pushed. What makes this so important is how familiar it feels to many viewers. People see a similar dynamic in everyday conversations, especially around politics. Someone brings up a topic, jobs, inflation, the economy, and instead of engaging with the specifics, the discussion becomes a cycle of, "What about this?" or "What about that?" until the original point disappears. Abby Phillip kept grounding the panel in the actual data. Job revisions happening under every administration, inflation peaking at known historical periods, and polls showing economic strain across political lines. Her calm approach highlighted an uncomfortable truth. Facts often lose the spotlight not because they're complicated, but because some people prefer emotional shortcuts. This segment exposed how easily political dialogue can drift away from reality unless someone actively pulls it back. And on this night, Abby Phillip was that someone.
Let's just bring it back to today.
Very quickly.
Very quickly. The president has the lowest approvals, actually lower than Joe Biden's economic approvals at the worst moments of Joe Biden's presidency. Donald Trump has a lower economic approval today. And don't ask me, ask Fox News. It's a Fox News poll that's showing low numbers for him, but it's not just Fox News. It's Marquette, it's Reuters, all the polls, even Rasmussen is showing a big dip. And that is because the public is concerned about the president's policies that have raised their prices.
But that's because U.S. prices...
We have to take a quick break. We will resume this on the other side of it.
As the debate reached its final stretch, the conversation broadened into something larger than a jobs report. It became a reflection of the entire political atmosphere, a place where talking points often overshadow facts, and where some voices use constant interruptions as a strategy rather than a byproduct of passion. The panel highlighted a growing frustration among viewers, discussions that feel less like conversations and more like competing monologues. Abby Phillip tried repeatedly to create space for facts, charts, and expert analysis. And yet, the moment the data appeared, someone would redirect the topic, raise a new accusation, or shift the focus back to political rivalry. For many people watching, this felt familiar. It's the same pattern they see at the dinner table, online, in group chats. The difficulty of having a real political conversation when someone responds to every point with a new distraction instead of engaging directly. But the segment also showed something hopeful. When journalism is grounded in clarity, calm questioning, and factual explanation, it cuts through the noise. And that's why Abby Phillip's approach stands out. She doesn't escalate the tension. She dismantles it with precision and patience. In the end, the takeaway is simple. Political discourse gets better when we stop rewarding confusion and start rewarding clarity. Our democracy relies on being able to argue ideas without abandoning reality. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more breakdowns like this.